Welcome to the last quarter, where two incoming seniors discuss collegiate sports and professional sports. I'm Haley Jordan.
And I'm Jake Toppen. We'll be bringing you all IU athletics during quarantine and professional sports such as NHL, NBA, NFL, and any other sport that's going on during this time when sports return.
Welcome to the first episode of The Last Quarter. Jake and I decided to create this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, this Zoom session during quarantine because we are upcoming seniors at Indiana University. I have one semester left, and Jake, what are your plans for this coming year?
Well, I'll be a full-on senior. I know you graduate in the fall of 2020, but I graduate in 2021 in the spring. So this is my full last year, and then I'll be done in the spring. So
yeah, so that's kind of where where the name came from. The last quarter, it's kind of our last showdown before we are thrown out into the real world. But until then, we are going to be excited to be pushing out podcasts, Zoom episodes, whatever you want to call them. We're excited to be pushing those out once a week. Today's show is kind of a getting our feet wet type of deal. And then from now on, we will be having guests and various other things going on in future episodes. As far as the rundown of the shows, every week we will have a 30-minute episode airing. We're shooting for Thursday, but whichever day that it can be put on the YouTube page. You can find us on IU Sports Media YouTube page under The Last Quarter, or on Twitter under @TheLastQuarter1. Today, we are going to be doing kind of a hodgepodge of topics. There's a lot happening in sports right now, thanks coronavirus. First topic, we have MLB. COVID is kind of after the season. There's people throwing balls at people's heads. Second topic, what about the NFL? How are they dealing with COVID? There's a new list that everybody seems to be talking about, the top 100 athletes in the league. And our third topic that we'll brush on a little bit, NHL resumes this week. Jake, why don't you get us started with the MLB hot topics?
Well, there's a lot been going on in MLB. It's the first full-blown week that we've gotten baseball and sports in quite some time. So it's been pretty crazy. And we all know that what happened last year was pretty controversial with the Astros and their whole cheating scandal. And the other night, Joe Kelly, the pitcher for the Dodgers, threw a pitch at Correa's head for the Astros. And apparently the MLB didn't like it because they suspended him 8 games, which is a lot for a short season because this season is only 60 games. So compared to 162 games. So the 8-game suspension serves as a 22-game suspension in a regular season. So I don't really agree with that call from the MLB because, it was a dangerous pitch going at his head, which I don't think he was actually trying to go for his head. He just kind of lost control of it because it's Joe Kelly. He's known for his breaking ball. And I don't know. I see his frustration because the Astros cheated to try and win a World Series, and they won a World Series from it too. They won one, lost one, but I just don't agree that he should be suspended 8 games because if the Astros didn't get suspended a single game for cheating, if he serves 1 game suspension out of his 8 games, he'll be serving more suspension than any of those guys that cheated. So I don't really agree with that
point. Yeah, because this guy, there's really, I'm sure there's obviously some beef between the teams, but there's really no way to exactly prove that that's what he was going for. So the incident was Joe Kelly throws the ball directly at Carlos Correa's head. Okay, yeah, I think any baseball spectator can be like, yeah, that was probably on purpose. But then where the controversy kind of struck was after he struck him out, he said, "Nice swing."
And then a few not so nice words. Yeah, not so many nice words. But if I'm an athlete, if I'm Joe Kelly, I'll be honest, that's probably me out there doing that because I want to win. I'm all about winning World Series or winning a championship. And to see that he got robbed or the Dodgers got robbed of a World Series because the Astros were cheating, I could see his frustration. I don't think he was really trying to hurt or kill anyone.
No.
But he was frustrated, and I get that. He's allowed to be if they're allowed to cheat, he's allowed to be frustrated. That's how it goes.
I think so too. I absolutely agree with you, Jake. And like, but at the same time, like, is this the 8th grade? Like, Kelly also stuck his tongue out at him too. Nice swing. Like, and I think that is so minimal though compared to what the Astros did on their way to the 2017 World Series. Like, literally illegally stole signs and didn't get in trouble for it. They fessed up to it, but they only fessed up to it and came clean because they were caught. So does that really count as fessing up and skating free from punishment?
I I don't. They should not have skated free from punishment because they cheated. I mean, like honestly I've never seen that. Like I thought there was gonna be some more punishment, but then the players got immunity. We have to remember they got immunity for like if they came out and like said what they were gonna say, then they obviously wouldn't be like severely punished or punished at all. And obviously they haven't been punished at all. So a lot of players are upset, and it's not just Joe Kelly who's done like I mean there's other pitchers that have pegged him, but he's the only one that's gotten suspension, I believe, because he threw it so high and almost hurt Correa. But I don't think he should be serving an 8-game suspension. I mean,
No.
I don't think he should be serving any suspension. I think maybe get talked to a little bit, but like no suspension.
Yeah,
No.
sit him down, say, hey, you're an adult. Let's settle this in a way where it doesn't spike controversy within the sports world where COVID's already trying to eat the season. So let's chill out a little bit, maybe. I want to read you guys some tweets that I found. They're kind of funny. All caps, yo, free Joe Kelly, 100 emoji, added Angels pitcher Kenyon Middleton. I liked that one. Then I also liked laughing face, crying face, laughing face, crying face. 8 games. What a joke. At MLB is so soft anymore, it's kind of embarrassing. People should just keep cheating because apparently there is 0-game suspensions for that. Laughing face. And that was from former Angels pitcher Jared Weaver. I thought that was great. One more. Astros player for the 17 World Series equals immunity, tweeted former infielder Jerry Hairston Jr. Joe Kelly doesn't hit anyone equals suspended 8 games. Justice? Hashtag MLB.
You go on the MLB Instagram, if you click on anything posted to do with Joe Kelly, or even if it's not about Joe Kelly, it says hashtag free Joe Kelly. And I think that's hilarious. And I'm pretty sure it was trending on Twitter the other night too, which I'm all about that. I think that's hilarious. I don't think he should be serving suspension at all. Not 1 game. I just think it's crazy how the MLB is running this. I don't agree.
I say give the guy a slap on the wrist and let's play some ball. Again, COVID, we don't know. They're already trying to take out the Marlins. We don't want our own players taking out other players. Come on, let's play sports and let's do our jobs. But next topic, moving on from Joe Kelly, I'm sure we'll hear more about him this week. But a question you posed was, through the 5 to 6 games, which teams have looked the best so far between the Cubs and the Rays? So how about you start off with your opinion on that?
Well, the reason I picked the Cubs and the Rays is because the Rays, I mean, they started off the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays aren't the most powerhouse team in the league, but they have really good young up-and-coming players. And then I also picked the Cubs, not being biased or anything because I live near Chicago, but I think that I picked the Cubs and the Rays through the first 5-6 games. Number one, I didn't see the Cubs being this good through the first 4 games. Their bullpen is terrible. Their bullpen is so bad. And so I picked the Cubs. They lost last night to the Reds 12-7, but I mean they're 4-2. They've won 4 of their first 6 games. And I think they're doing a good job despite having such a bad bullpen. So I picked the Cubs for a start because it's their best start since 2016. So I picked the Cubs to be one of my teams with the best start so far in the league. And then I picked the Rays too because the first series against the Blue Jays, I think they're a better team than the Blue Jays, but they got out hit in every single game. The Blue Jays, and they won 2 of the 3. So I picked the Rays and the Cubs for my first 2 teams as hot starts because I think that the Rays have a good team and they're going to be good throughout the season. And I think the Cubs have a good team, but a bad bullpen, but they'll be good throughout the season as well. So I'm going with the Cubs and the Rays so far as my 2 hot start teams through the first 5 to 6 games.
And I love that because they just so happen to have the same record, which is, it's great to compare teams with the same record because you never know what's going to happen within the next game. So I noticed that the Cubs made a triple play against the Reds yesterday, even though they lost. First triple play in over 2 decades. And if you watch the video back, the announcers don't even know what's happening. They're like, wait, what? Was that a triple play that just happened? It was so smooth and anticlimactic that I don't think anybody knew it was happening until the announcers just started laughing and they're like, oh yeah, that was a triple play. So, you know, even though they lost, they're still breaking some records, which I think is a very promising sign for future games. And then as far as the Rays go, 2 days ago, MLB published a video of pitcher Tyler Glasnow striking out the Braves 19 times. New franchise record, 19 times. That's a whole lot. And then the Braves, who they play, they have a 3-3 record right now, which isn't too bad compared to the National League East standings. And so, yeah, I think both teams are looking pretty good given the circumstances, and they're making a lot of noise. And also, we need to shout out Trisha Whitaker. IU, I don't know what her official title would be, but I guess professor. She is a sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I actually have her this semester, and I'm so pumped about it. Also moving right along, Marlin's game got canceled on Tuesday because of the outbreak, and those cases keep going up. A couple days ago, it was 17 cases. Now it's 19 positive COVID-19 cases on the team. Sources say they went out in Atlanta.
Yeah. That is, I mean, if you're an athlete, I mean, like, even for us, say we're going out in Atlanta, I don't understand. Like, I personally wouldn't do it, and I'm not even an athlete. I'm not risking, like, playing.
Exactly.
Being in the game or whatever. I think it's absurd. They just need to be in a bubble. I think it's tough it's a short season. It's only 60 games. So if you just put the MLB in a bubble, it's so much simpler. You're not going to find any cases. You're not going to have to cancel these games because if they're not in a bubble and they go out in Atlanta, they're just going to have to keep canceling games if people are going out and doing their own thing because someone's bound to catch one case and then that's just going to spread throughout the entire league because when you're staying on base or you're tagging people or you're stealing, you're obviously going to be right there. And then when you're at home plate, you have the catcher, the ump, and the batter. So, I mean, there's one person. Say the batter's infected, then the catcher gets infected, and the whole team's going to get infected. So I don't really understand why they go out in Atlanta, even just to get food. I'm
sure it's to get food and then, go dancing or something after they go get their cheeseburgers. I'm not sure what's happening. I know the starting pitchers have it. First baseman has it. I bet their water boy has it now too. I have no idea. Oh, and 2 coaches have it as well. So there you go. The guys leading the team have it. But yeah, Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, we are literally just, 21, 22-year-old college students, and I am in my home in Indianapolis on lockdown, and I'm not a MLB player, but I recognize that I probably shouldn't be, going out and living my life as normal. And you would think they wouldn't want to jeopardize their season.
Yeah. No, it's risky. I don't know why they did it. I mean, they know what's going on right now in the world, so why would you go out and then go play or try and play a series against, I can't remember what team it was. I think it might have been the Phillies, or they might be going to play the Phillies.
Yep.
But
you're right.
I just don't understand it. It's just not a good call. You gotta think. You gotta think smarter than that. You're an athlete and you're getting paid millions of dollars to play already. Like, just be careful. I think the MLB needs to go into a bubble like all the other, NFL's not in a bubble yet, but I think that they need to handle it a better way.
And we are getting paid nothing to sit here and talk about them. Just really want to be clear on that. But you're absolutely correct, Jake. They are remaining in Philly right now. They hope to resume playing on August 3rd, but wait a minute. Once a player or whoever, just a person in general, contracts the virus, you're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. Has it been 14 days? No. So I guess the MLB, can just step on the health department and say, hey, it's baseball. We make the rules now. But I'm all for them playing as long as everybody's healthy. As a sports reporter, as a sports broadcaster, I want them to play. Like, genuinely, I do. But I don't want them to infect everybody else and hinder the season from happening. I saw a quote pulled from ESPN this morning. They said, MLB is encouraging players not to leave hotels and road cities except for games, mandating the use of surgical masks instead of cloth masks during travel, and here's my favorite part, requiring every team to travel with a compliance officer. So essentially these teams have a chaperone. They're like, boys, stay in, 9 o'clock curfew. Like, don't be running away from your hotel rooms, which I think is actually kind of hilarious, but in this case necessary.
Is it a field trip or I don't understand. Are we going on a fifth grade field trip or is it the MLB season? Because I remember the only time I took a chaperone was on a field trip in middle school. So
Exactly. And it's funny that it's funny you make the field trip reference because they were talking about busing them to different games. And I always remember, third grade field trip, like sitting with my buddies in the back of the bus, thinking we were so cool. Chaperones are all the way in the front. But anyways, is it an MLB game or a field trip? You're right. That's great. NFL Hot Topics. The 2020 top 100 player rankings came out, and that's a list that everybody looks forward to. Everybody argues over. Everybody agrees on some specific players. Jake, what were your thoughts on that list?
oh, man, I never agree with those lists.
Never.
I never agree with them. Obviously, I'll be biased too because I'm from Indiana and we both are mutual towards the Colts. I don't ever agree with them. I guess it's based on who did the best in the 2020 season. They just finished the list last night. They had Lamar Jackson at number 1. Then they had Russell Wilson at 2, Aaron Donald at 3, and then Patrick Mahomes at 4. I don't really agree with that. I know you're very, very fond of Patrick Mahomes. So
I'm very fond of him, yes. I guess you could say that.
I'm not going to agree with that either. So I think Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league all around, the most valuable player in the league. But Lamar Jackson did have a great season last year, so I'm okay with him being number 1. I don't really understand Russell Wilson being ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I love Russell Wilson. I think he's a great quarterback. I mean, if you take Patrick Mahomes out of the Chiefs are still good. But if you take Russell Wilson out of the Seahawks aren't good. So
that's true.
That's my whole conception of that. So overall, the list wasn't terrible, but it's not still perfect. But I don't know. What did you think?
I thought, Lamar Jackson with the number 1 spot, I agreed because, he's coming off that fresh MVP title. He's great. He didn't have a lot of people to work with. And so I was okay with that, and I'm very biased towards Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, everybody knows that. I have my Chiefs coloring on today. But as far as Mahomes being ranked number 4, I was so confused. The guy takes the team to a Super Bowl win, and they're like, okay, we're going to stick him at 4. You might as well be last. What the heck? Why didn't they put him at, I would say, number 2 or 3 at least. But I think, honestly, in a way, I think people are just tired of handing this guy awards. He is, in line to win another MVP award, and people are just like, okay, he's good. We all know that. Let's move him down to 4. Tom Brady was 14th, by the way. Just wanted to say that too.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady was 6 last year, and he dropped down out of the top 10 this year. We were talking about Patrick Mahomes being at 4, but you have to give respect to defensive players too. You can't it's hard to compare a quarterback versus a defensive end or a defensive back or a cornerback or a linebacker, or a guard like Quentin Nelson on the Colts. He's the highest guard ever ranked on the list at number 29. And I think that's really impressive. But if you're talking about in terms of value, Quentin Nelson is top 10, in my opinion. And so if you put Patrick Mahomes at 4 and then you have Aaron Donald at 3, I think that's okay because Aaron Donald is a great asset to the Rams. He's the best defensive player in the league, in my opinion. So I think that's okay that Aaron Donald's ahead of Patrick Mahomes just on that list because he did have a good year too. But, I mean, it's hard to compare defense to offense depending on what position.
Yeah, so you think they're kind of trying to give it some variety rather than, putting, quarterbacks are obviously the star players of the team. So you think they're, trying to even it out a little bit because it's kind of like apples to oranges when you compare.
I don't think they're just trying to even it out. I think that they're doing it because they realize, if you just put, the first top 25 people all offense, people are going to realize it. They're not evening it out. They're giving the respect to those defensive players because Aaron Donald is a great player. So I think he definitely deserves that top 5 spot. Or he definitely deserves a top 3 spot, in my opinion. And he's been up there in the top 10 the past few years. So he's consistent too.
What about the Colts? They have 3 in the top 100. And that's,
I think they should have.
That's promising. The Colts have been a big question mark, ever since the drama with Luck and bringing in Jacoby. And now we have family man Phillip Rivers coming in. And for some reason, even though Rivers did have 20 interceptions last season, just have to, state the facts there. For some reason, I just feel like he's going to be a good fit for the Colts, at least for this season. But again, that could be my optimism being a Hoosier and living 20 minutes from Lucas Oil Stadium. What do you think about that?
I think that first of all, you talked about the Colts having 3 in the top 100, which is awesome. I think that's cool. But that is also not awesome at the same time because they should have more in the top 100. I think that there's other players that are very underrated on the Colts that have had great seasons in the past.
Yeah.
And they're just being overlooked. If you're on the Colts, it's not a big market team. You're not the Patriots. You're not the Chargers. You're not the Raiders. Like one of the teams that gets all the respect, and the Colts don't get respected. That's just my opinion. So I think that other players on the list should have been Kenny Moore, the corner. I think he should have been on the list, not too high, but in the 80s to 100 range. And then I think Marlon Mack should have made the list too. He had a fantastic year last year. And then I think a few of the other guards should have been on the list. I think that not Braden Smith. I think that Costanzo should have made it on the list. I don't know. I could go on and on. I could say every Colts player should have been on the list. Those for right now. DeForest Buckner, who the Colts acquired in the offseason for the first pick in the draft, the first round, 13th pick in the first round of the draft. They traded that to the 49ers, and they got DeForest Buckner in return, which I think is a great deal. He's a great guy. He's going to open up for the linebackers. I think Anthony Walker and Darius Leonard are going to have great seasons. And then you have Quentin Nelson, who got ranked at 29, and then Darius Leonard at 50, which I think is terrible. Darius Leonard at 50 is absurd. You know how good he is, how crazy he is, the way he talks. I think Darius Leonard should have at least been top. I think Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard should have both been top 25.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a safe thing to say, given this past seasons that they've had, especially Darius Leonard. I will give you that 100%. And then who's the other one you said? You said Marlon Mack should have been on the list, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. Don't know what – well, here's the thing. We don't really know – I mean, we kind of have the general vibe and the general idea of who makes this list and all these analysts who come together to form it. But personally, I don't exactly know the process of how they pick and choose who gets each spot. So I have to look more into that.
It's I saw the award last night. I follow Lamar Jackson on Instagram, and I saw his award, and he's holding it on a table, and it says number 1 voted by peers. It says peers on the trophy. So I think it has people and players have a say in what how the standings go. I could be completely wrong. I just saw peers on the trophy, so I assumed it had to do with other players or league officials voting on a majority of maybe they get 50 people and they say, hey, where do you want to rank these people? It's a committee, I'm pretty sure. There's definitely a committee because you have to be consistent. You can't have a bunch of random people just saying, oh yeah, let's put Lamar here at 1. But then you have everyone else on the Chiefs saying, oh, let's put Patrick Mahomes at number 1. Maybe they get one person from every organization and they all agree, or spread it out and see what the percentage is to see who should be where on the list. I think that's what I'm thinking, but I could be completely wrong.
That would be like a checks and balances system almost, just to make sure everything's fair and not weighted in one direction. Yeah, I think that's a good observation you have there. But as far as, sleeper teams, biggest threat teams, overhyped team, I think the sleeper team right now is going to be Tampa Bay. I think Tom Brady has a couple more seasons in him, and then, Gronk decides to come out of the shadows and say, hey, joke's on all of you, I'm coming back to the NFL. I'm very curious to see how they do this season. It's a new environment. Brady is free from Belichick's dynasty that he's created, and I think they're going to do better than a lot of people expect.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, I wouldn't consider them a sleeper team. I think we already know they're going to be good. Gronk comes out of retirement, and then he automatically gets a higher rating than Lamar Jackson on Madden. So I've already given the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the hype. So I think Tampa Bay is a good team. I don't think they would be my sleeper team. I think my sleeper team would be the Arizona Cardinals, and they got one of the best, probably the second best in my eyes, receiver in the league, and DeAndre Hopkins from the Texans, and a steal of a trade too. So they got DeAndre Hopkins. They still have Larry Fitzgerald. They have Kyler Murray, and then they have I think that Kenyon Drake. I think they have him at running back. because they traded David Johnson to the Texans in that deal with DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm excited to see what the Cardinals can do this year. It's going to open up Larry Fitzgerald to come out of the slot and receive a slot receiver, because they have DeAndre Hopkins now, who can do anything, one of the best route runners in the league. So I'm excited. I think the Cardinals will be my sleeper team now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes it's so hard to predict, when they haven't even started playing, but it's fun to predict. And I love, love, love looking online and seeing what other people say. And people will literally sit there and predict the season records, which I think is really fun and something I kind of want to start doing just to see how accurate I am based on just analysts and research, based on what we can find. As far as my biggest threat team, again, I'm going to say the Chiefs. Because they're coming in hot after that Super Bowl win. Mahomes still has Tyreek Hill. He still has Travis Kelce, and their defense is really good. Very, very good. And so I think, I don't know. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl again back to back, but I am saying that right now everybody's looking at the Chiefs. They're always in the news. Andy Reid has created this new dynasty of Chiefs Kingdom, and it's just an amazing thing to watch. That's my biggest threat team, even though I think people are kind of sick of hearing about it.
No, I don't think people are sick and tired of hearing about the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a great team too, but I'm going to go with my biggest threat team this year is going to be the Ravens. I think their schedule. I
think we were going to say that.
their schedule's not as I don't think it's that tough, to be honest, and they have such a good team. And I think Lamar Jackson's out for blood after getting beat in not the first round, but the first round for him last year against the Titans. Second round of the playoffs technically after the wild card. But I think he's out for blood this year. I have the Ravens going 14-2.
Okay.
I have them losing games. And actually one of those games I have them losing, not being biased, but I have them losing to the Colts. So one of the two games I have them losing. And then I think the Chiefs are up there too. I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are it's like the Chiefs and the Ravens up here, and then maybe the Bucks, Saints, and then everyone else. There's just a separation, but anyone can win it when it comes to playoff times. It's going to be a crazy year, and I'm excited to see what happens.
What about the Patriots? Cam Newton, loss of Tom Brady.
I think that the Patriots will be fine. Before they got Cam Newton in the signing for $550K 1 year, cheapest deal ever. I was not too concerned about the Patriots. And then they got Cam Newton, and I was like, well, they could be good now. He's a great player. I mean, I'm not a fan of Cam Newton in any way, but I'm not wishing anything bad upon him. I think he's going to have a good season. We'll see. He has a good defense. But there are players starting to sit out because of COVID. The Patriots had 2 or 3 players sit out the other day, and Hightower was one of them, and he's a great player for the Patriots. He's a key player for the Patriots. So it's going to be tough to see what happens. And I don't know if NFL is going to do a bubble or not, but if they do, hopefully more of these players will decide to play or just not sit out. But right now, I think the Patriots will be okay. They'll be average, nothing too special. I think they'll go 10.
Like the past.
Yeah, and I mean they weren't not anything special the past few years, but I mean they had Tom Brady. So if you get into the playoffs, anything's possible with postseason Tom Brady. So we'll see. How Bill Belichick adjusts to coaching Cam Newton and not having his guy Tom Brady for the past 20 some years or 15 years. It'll be exciting. I'm excited to see what happens.
Anxiety from Tom Brady. It's just so weird. Tom Brady not attached to the Patriots organization is just going to be an adjustment. But anything goes in this year, right? 2020 has just been such oh my gosh. Dare we make MVP predictions?
Oh my God! Well, we already know what you're gonna say,
right? Yeah.
You go first, really.
Do I have to say it? But it's not just my own personal, fandom of thinking he's just going to be set up to be a great quarterback. It's not just that. I have done research. Sites are already saying he's the shining candidate again and could be the league's first player to take home 2 MVPs before he's 25. I have read that a couple of times, so it is backed up by some information. But if it's not him, who would you suggest?
Oh, wow. I'd probably say Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson, obviously, like I said, if you take him out of the Seahawks, they're not going to be good. Russell Wilson has carried that franchise the past 10 years or 8 years since he's been in the league in 2012. He's just so important to the Seahawks. So I would say Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson again, because we all know what Lamar Jackson can do, or Patrick Mahomes, one of those guys. I think it'll be a quarterback again for sure.
I agree. I was going to say that too. It's most definitely going to be a quarterback. That would be interesting if Lamar Jackson could win it back to back.
Yeah.
Very.
No, if Lamar Jackson wins it again, that is impressive. If he wins the MVP trophy and then a Super Bowl, his first Super Bowl, that'd be incredible because then you already know the two star-studded quarterbacks for the next 20 years, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Then you have a guy with an MVP and a Super Bowl, and then you have a guy with two MVPs and a Super Bowl. So then it's kind of like a little duel. It's kind of like Manning and Brady of our era.
Ah, yes. I'm ready for another duel. I'm ready for that. Sports is ready for that. And what do you think about the new playoff format? So basically, NFL expanded format from 12 to 14 teams, which basically allows one more wild card from each conference. And this is the first expansion that they've done since 1990. So it's been 30 years. Do you think that's going to work? Do you think there's going to be bumps?
I'm excited to see what it's like. NHL did the same thing about like 7 years ago. They switched their playoff format. And I'm a huge hockey guy, so I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Because in NHL, it was just like 1 through 8 seeds. So the 1 plays the 8, the 7 plays whoever, and like goes on. So 4 plays 5. And I was like, okay with that. But then they switched to like divisions in hockey. So it was like really weird. And I was like really confused. And I'm okay with it now because my team won championships out of it. But this could make some people upset in the NFL if they're switching from 12 teams to 14 teams. It's just one extra team in each conference, which is going to be it's just going to be the 1 seed having a bye, obviously. But it's going to open up another wild card spot for someone. So, like, say, like, the Browns, like last year. The Browns probably would have made the playoffs in the AFC because they were still bad, but there's an extra playoff spot now. So,
yeah.
I mean, on the edge of, like, 7-9 or 8-8, people have a better chance now to make the playoffs because before – people were making the playoffs at 7-9, and now people are going to even have a better chance at it because there's another slot. There's 2 extra slots.
And that's kind of – it's going to be interesting to see because it's kind of like, the last spot. Who's it going to go to? Who wants it more? And you just never know who's going to end up winning the Super Bowl after that. It could be one of those wild card teams. You never know. That's why I think the new playoff format's going to be just interesting across the board because – with this season, especially with all the, restrictions and everything, we don't know. We're very uncertain of what's going to happen. So this would be the year to change that up and kind of spice things up a little bit in the league. We could talk about NFL all day. I know I could. There's a lot of players we haven't talked about, like Joe Burrow and a couple others that we could hit on. But for now, let's move on to NHL. You're more of a hockey guy than I am. I know that they're supposed to start up on August 1st, coming up really soon, and they are playing in their bubble until the Stanley Cup is awarded in the fall. And so far, that seems to be going pretty well. 0 positive COVID-19 cases. Would you look at that?
Yeah, thank the Lord. I cannot go without any more non-hockey in my life. I need hockey. So I'm excited. They actually already started. August 1st is like the first like start of the qualifying rounds. So that's when the real games start. But they started this week with scrimmage games, and last night the Blackhawks played. Obviously, since I'm from that area, I root for them, but I'm not going to be biased. They play the Edmonton Oilers in the qualifying round, so best of 5 series. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what will happen. I'm excited to see what the Blackhawks will do. I'm excited to see what everyone and how everyone will do and how it plays out because this is so different. It's a 24-team playoff format, so it's like that's a lot. That's like obviously that's like majority of the league because there's only
exactly. It's like pretty much everybody. Welcome.
Yeah, come on, you get a play. Everyone gets you get a playoff. You get a playoff.
You get a playoff. You get a playoff.
I mean, I'm excited to see what happens. The qualifying rounds start August 1st, like you said, on Saturday, and I don't know. I'm excited. I think the Blackhawks will lose first round to the Oilers, but the Blackhawks have a ton of playoff experience from this past decade. They won 3 Stanley Cups from it, and they saw a majority of their players like Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Corey Crawford, Duncan Keith. Seabrook actually sat out because he didn't want to do it because of the whole coronavirus. So they lost one of their veteran guys, but I think it'll be a fun series, a lot of scoring because you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on the Edmonton Oilers, the 2 top players in the league this year. And Art Ross Trophy winner, who's most likely going to get it, Leon Draisaitl. So I think there'll be a lot of scoring in that series. I could go on about all the other series, but it's going to be fun, and it's going to be good to have hockey back, even if it's just scrimmaging. I don't think it gets enough appreciation because all the other
I
American
don't either.
sports.
Yeah, and you just have to recognize the beauty of it too. I mean, not only is it kind of like field hockey or soccer style, but they're on ice. So not only are these guys powerful athletes, but they're essentially like really great skaters too. And that's a sport I need to come to watch more and appreciate more. And I think that's going to be one of my things that I do this year during quarantine is really dig deep and find the appreciation of hockey. I covered IU hockey a couple times here and there when I was a junior, and I really enjoyed it. And so I can't wait for this, season, the official season, to start on August 1st. And I'll let you know my thoughts since you seem to be the hockey guy of IU.
It's a fast-paced game. It can be slow sometimes if there's a lot of whistles, penalties, etc. But if you get into the game, if you just watch a playoff game, like all these games coming up, you're going to want to watch because they're going to have playoff implications. And I think that they're going to be fast-paced. Some of them might be a little slow-moving because that's how some teams play. Drawn penalties, getting in the penalty box. Like the Boston Bruins, for example. Brad Marchand, he'll be in the penalty box a lot, most likely. But for all the people who are hockey fans, they're excited. For all the people who want to learn and aren't as into hockey like you, it's a good sport to get into, and especially if you know that hockey is underappreciated, like unlike the NFL, the MLB, NBA. The NBA is I think the NBA is the most popular league in America right now and outside of America. So they have a good base. But I mean, if people start getting into hockey, I think it's going to be a fun time for them. Like you said, like I think you would like it. I really do.
Great. I will get right on that. And Jake, thanks so much for meeting with us today on the last quarter. I'm so excited that we decided to do this because I have been really missing sports, and this is just such a great outlet to, spit out everything we know and all of our opinions. So this was episode 1, season 1 of The Last Quarter. To keep up with us, follow us on Twitter at The Last Quarter 1, and we will see you next week. What will your play be in the last quarter?